All right, hello and welcome to the video explaining how we're going to integrate TurboETH with WAGMI CLI so you as a developer no longer have to write React hooks for your smart contract APIs. But before we dive in, I want to do a quick introduction of the WAGMI CLI if you're not familiar with it, and then how we've integrated that into TurboETH. So, WAGMI is a front-end library for managing wallet connections, reading smart contracts, writing the smart contract, listening for events. But oftentimes what we found ourselves doing as developers is integrating that, the WAGMI library into our front end and manually writing hooks, read hooks, write hook, event hooks. But what has been recently published is the WAGMI CLI, which automates that process. So instead of continually writing these hooks, you can now pass in a number of different ways to generate that, whether that's through a hard hat project, whether that's through a Foundry project, whether you're just automatically getting the verified contracts from Etherscan, or you have manually loaded your APIs. So if you want to learn a little bit more about how WAGMI CLI works and set up, I recommend you go to this page. It's at WAGMI, the WAGMI site, and then it's under the CLI tab, and it'll show kind of some of the features that are included, right? We have the commands and the plugins. But for now, what I'm going to do is assume you've kind of gone through this process, you understand the value of the WAGMI CLI, the command line interface, and then now you want to integrate it into your project. So what we're going to go ahead and demonstrate is how to use WAGMI CLI in combination with TurboETH, which includes the CLI in the packages JSON, and it's got a few of the commands ready to go. So what you're seeing on the screen right now is an example page. We've got nothing really going on, but what we're going to have completed in the next couple of minutes is a React component that automatically reads from the blockchain and is able to get information about an ERC20 token. So I'm going to go ahead and hop on over to the WAGMI config, which is what's used to tell WAGMI CLI what should be generated, right? So the full list of commands and the configuration and what can be done is in that documentation. But what we're going to go ahead and do right now is assume that you just have an API file locally, or you're going to use the ERC720 or ERC20 API that's included in WAGMI, and we're going to generate it that way. So what we're going to have to do in this contracts array, we're going to go ahead and add a new object, and we're going to give it name. Let's give it ERC20, and then we want to do ABI, and what we're going to do is load ERC20 ABI from the WAGMI module. And so what we've gone ahead and done now is we're telling this configuration that, hey, we have a smart contract within our application. In this particular case, it's an ERC20, and we want to convert this ABI into the React hooks. And that's what you're seeing right below, which is this plugin React. It'll take that and automatically update it. And then when we run this command, you'll be able to see the output of that, and that's going to be in lib blockchain. So right over here on the right, we have no blockchain TypeScript folder, and we're going to go ahead and generate that right now. So I'm going to open up my command line on the left, and we have a convenient little helper function, WAGMI config, I believe. Let me double check. WAGMI generate. And so now when I'm running WAGMI generate, we see this blockchain folder or TypeScript file open up, and this has now all been auto-generated, right? We didn't have to write any of this code. It's run for us. So let's quickly kind of explore what's in this file. At the top, we have ERC20 ABI, pretty standard, but then below is what we're seeing, all this code that we would normally have to write and no longer have to do that. So we have use ERC20, we can initialize a contract. We have use ERC20 read, we can initialize a read hook. We have allowance, balance of, decimals, Basically, any function that your API has, WAGMI CLI will automate the process of creating a hook for that function, both read and write. Right, so if we explore this entire file, you'll see all of that functionality. Right here, we have use ERC 720 write, approve, transfer, transfer from. Okay, so now what we want to do is take these hooks and build a component so we can directly read from the blockchain. So I'm going to go ahead and go over to my example page, and what we're going to go ahead and do is just start importing some of these hooks. So if I go const data, use ERC20, let's go ahead and go name. So you'll see this auto completes, and this looks for in lib blockchain, use ERC20 name. Okay, then we're going to pass it an address. And I'm going to go ahead and go back to my browser. Let's go over to Etherscan real quick. I'll go ahead and look up USDC. I want to get this token address. Let's copy this. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to my application. I'm going to copy and paste this address. And that should technically be all that we need, but let's give it a go. I'm going to write right there. Let's close that bracket so this compiles. And give it a sec to build. Boom. So we are seeing USD coin, right? So we've written only a few lines of code. All we had to do was tell the WAGMI CLI, hey, I want to get an ERC, I want to convert this API into my hooks, and then we import that hook into our page, our component, wherever you're kind of setting it up. And the only thing that's required is passing in that address, and then it's going to give you back the data. So if you've built applications, Web3 applications before, you kind of know this is normally a pretty tedious process. It's very repetitive. This might take anywhere from 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes to kind of just get this whole flow set up. But with the introduction of WAGMI CLI and TurboETH, a lot of this can be automated, and you can focus more on what you want your application to do and less on kind of how your application is configured and set up. So if you haven't given the WAGMI CLI a spin, I highly recommend it. It's going to save you hours and hours and hours of work. And then if you are starting a new Web3 application, go ahead and start it with TurboETH, and you're going to get moving along even quicker. Any questions, leave a comment, and I'm happy to answer them. Thank you.